Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. And coming up here on today's show, we have the latest combine meeting tracker. If you're wondering, Mitch, who are all the players that the Raiders have met with? Luckily for you, our team is there, and I got the updated list. On top of that, the Raiders have met with multiple quarterbacks. I'll tell you who they've met with, who they haven't met with, and then the latest going on around Jalen Carter, the potential number 1 overall pick, because there is a arrest warrant out for him, and no matter what, I do think this could potentially impact the silver and black. Now, if you hop into a time machine and you were to go back 2-3 weeks ago, some of y'all said, the way that this show can get better is more player interviews. Well, not only do we have more player interviews, not only are we getting updates because the Chat Sports team is actually at the NFL Scouting Combine, we're always going to do news. We're always going to cover the rumors. But if you want more content around the Raiders, hit that subscribe button because especially this week, lots and lots of player interviews. In fact, the YouTube short that I put out earlier today was around Tyree Wilson, and if you haven't seen it, go check it out because it sounds like to me he wants to be a Raider and team up with Max Crosby. He is one of the top players in the 2023 NFL Draft. He was one of my top 10 players on the big board in a video that I released, 2 months ago. The top players that the Raiders should take at number 7. Really good edge rusher, probably the number 2 guy behind Will Anderson. Let's go to the next prospect that the Raiders met with, and early on, you're going to see a lot of defensive linemen on this list because, well, one, you better get some extra defensive linemen, and especially if you want to try to take down Mahomes, take down Herbert, you're going to have to deal with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson now. Mike Morris is an intriguing prospect to me. Probably going to be an early round 3, late round 2 type of dude. 7 sacks last season with the Michigan Wolverines. Next guy, Myles Murphy, 22 tackles, 6.5 sacks. This is actually another player that I had very high up on my board earlier in the draft process. The more tape I've started to watch on him, though, the stock's coming a little bit down. I had him as a no-doubt top 10 prospect. Now I don't even know if he's top 15. He might start to slide out of the top 20. Really curious, though, to see how he tests because the athletic traits are there, but it doesn't line up on tape. And I know that Clemson logo, that's going to scare the hell out of people, especially because of Cleveland Furl. Let's go then to the next offensive lineman that they met with, Byron Young. Not to be confused with Tennessee's Byron Young. 47 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Another prospect that I see being a third-round type of dude. He is more of a defensive tackle in my book, but no matter what, the Raiders need to upgrade that defensive line because realistically, you only have Max Crosby. Yeah, Chandler Jones is going to be back next season. However, though, he's coming off a serious injury. He's up there in age, and when you're a team that, I mean, let's face it, you just have not been able to get after the quarterback. Your best defensive tackle is Andrew Billings. He's a free agent. Bilal Nichols did get better as the season went on. But yeah, you drafted Matthew Butler. You drafted Neil Farrell Jr. last season. Those guys were late, and a lot of the times, healthy scratches. So I know how this answer is going to go, right? It's a matter of how early do you think someone should go. So here's my question to you. We're going to say early rounds is 1, 2, and 3. Sound good? Should the Raiders draft a defensive lineman in the early rounds? Type yes, type no. You're going to get hit with a YouTube ad break right now. So scroll on down and let me know. I do think that they should, but if they don't, hey, it is what it is. Next position here that we're going to look at is around Noah Sewell, linebacker from Oregon. Noah is I'm going to try to put this nicely, interesting prospect, and I think that he's ranked a lot higher on a lot of people's boards because of his brother. He is not nearly the athlete that his brother is, and the more tape that I've watched on him, he's not even a top 5 linebacker in my book right now. I do think he ends up getting taken in round 2, but I'm not that big of a fan of Noah Sewell. I'm being real with you. Next name, this name gives me nightmares because if y'all know, I am dyslexic as all hell, and Henry Toto, did I get it right? I have said it. Yeah, Jeremy's trying to say it, and he just sounds like he's yodeling in the background. This was a player, though, in the very first mock draft that I have ever put out. He was the linebacker that I had the Raiders taken at number 38. He is a good overall player from Sacktown. Shout out to my guy, Graphic Raider. But 94 tackles, 2.5 sacks. Anytime that you can find certain players that you can plug and play, and he right now would be arguably your best linebacker, which, sure, it's not saying too much because all you have is Divine Diablo. And then you got Darian Butler and Luke Masterson. Both of those guys are UDFAs. Jayon Brown's going to be a free agent, thank the Lord. And I don't know if Denzel Perriman ends up coming back to this team. So for me, if you're looking at a potential linebacker, Henry is definitely an intriguing prospect, no doubt about it. Now, the next player coming up here is probably the one that I am going to create the most headlines around from this video because I had some pretty interesting information given to me by a source. Before I get into that, though, hey, they're the reason why this show is 100% free. Shout out to today's sponsor, Cultivate. If you haven't already, go to wecultivate.us/chatsports. So the Raiders Report, y'all, is sponsored by Cultivate, the free browser extension that brings transparency to your Amazon shopping experience. Cultivate shows you the brand, seller, or product origin and identifies local alternatives that support local community efforts while saving you money. With over 50% of Amazon U.S. sellers based in China, Cultivate offers a way to avoid trickery from these sellers and keep money in the U.S. economy. Cultivate offers alternatives that are on average 30% less expensive than Amazon without any additional costs, such as Amazon Prime. It can even identify local alternatives that you can pick up the same day. Cultivate users earn free donations as rewards for using the extension, and the more you use it, the more you earn it in donations by increasing your level. In fact, Cultivate donates 51% of the revenue they make on your purchase. So, what are you waiting for? Go to wecultivate.us/chatsports and download Cultivate for free. Let Cultivate bring transparency, savings, and community support to your Amazon shopping journey. Support the show and download with our link. It's down in the comments and in the description of today's video. If some of y'all are looking for a hooker on Amazon, you're in the wrong place. If you're looking for him here, you're in the right place. I know for a fact that the Raiders are high on Hendon Hooker. And I know for a fact that, yes, he is a player that they have already met with at the Combine. The reason why Hendon is a very intriguing prospect overall is because, to me, he's not as good as one of the top four, which we will talk about in a second. And I don't think that he goes in round one. He might go in round two, probably goes in round two. To me, though, he is somewhere around that late second, early round three type of prospect. He was one of the Heisman finalists before suffering that ACL injury, which sucks. The other thing that's obviously going to hurt him, the age, 25 years old. He's older than Justin Herbert. He's older than Lamar Jackson. So that is definitely something that you got to think about. Now, before today's show started, again, our team out at the NFL Combine, I was told by a source that they told me the quarterback that is the most likely to be drafted by the Raiders is, in fact, Hendon Hooker. We spend a lot of time talking about C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. But he flat out told me that, look, when you go back and you look at McDaniels and you go back and look at their recent years, especially in New England, they haven't always taken a quarterback early. And this is a team that believes that they need to address that defense early on. We'll see how credible that source actually is or not, but I can understand the fact that Hooker is high on their list because he's not somebody that you're going to have to take in round one. And if the Raiders do want to address that defense, then they can do it a little bit earlier on. But he did say anything is on the table when it comes to Ziegler and McDaniels. So with that being said, there was a report that the Raiders have met with multiple high-end quarterbacks. When I hear high-end, I don't put Hooker in that list. I don't. I think there are 4 high-end QBs, and these 4 players, to me, no doubt will all go in round one. They have a legit chance, especially with the Jalen Carter news, which we'll get into here in a little bit. I think they're all going to go in the top 10. Bryce Young doesn't have the height. He's going to come in at actually around 5'10", 194 pounds. That's if he drinks about 14 pounds of water before he hops on the scales. But one of the things that McDaniel said yesterday was they don't worry about height. Height's not something that they measure when they overall look at a quarterback. We got to be able to face the facts here. If Bryce Young was the same size as C.J. Stroud, he'd be the number 1 overall pick, and nobody would even blink an eye at it. I got to hopefully, though, think my girlfriend doesn't think about size as being that big of a deal either, right? So in Stroud, though, he's got the big arm. He's got the accuracy. He is a player that I know for a fact Ziegler has come out and said that he also really likes. But the NFL Combine, to me, is where guys like C.J. Stroud, guys like Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, they're going to shine because they're the freak athletes. And then I just think the stock goes up and up and up. And you can see somebody like Bryce Young falling down a little bit. The player that I believe stock has raised the most over the last month has been this guy. There's a reason why he's nicknamed the Freak. I put out a video earlier today. Can Anthony Richardson save the Raiders? If it's a hit and he actually can be as good as what he can be, the answer to that is yes. He also, though, he's got floor where it's like, it's all the way down there, man. It's unbelievably low, which should scare the hell out of people. He's 21 years old. If you want to go another route, there are other people that believe that Will Levis will be able to learn the McDaniels system easier than Richardson, where if you're McDaniels, you'd probably have to build a system around Richardson. You might not have to do that with Will Levis. Either way, though, none of the reports that I have seen yet have confirmed that they have met with Bryce Young, that they have met with Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, or C.J. Stroud. All we know is the only confirmed report has been that they met with Hendon Hooker, and the only player that so far Josh McDaniels has mentioned by name at the Combine is Bryce Young. So, a lot of quarterbacks. I know for a fact, though, they are doing all of their due diligence and homework at that position. Now, this one isn't directly Raiders news, but when you're talking about the potential number 1 overall pick, that impacts every single team. Every team, and it's going to impact the Raiders as well. So the latest here around Jalen Carter is that he left the Combine today after news broke of a warrant out for him. And we have some tweets out there, I believe, around all the logistics of everything, but Carter also weighed in on everything that's going on in this situation, because to me, Jeremy and I, we were talking the other day on a live show, and somebody asked, hey, Mitch, what are the chances that Jalen Carter falls to the Raiders at 7? I said there's no chance unless something like a situation pops up. And according to Ari Meroff today, an arrest warrant has been issued for Georgia defensive tackle and potential number 1 pick Jalen Carter for reckless driving and racing. Stems from the January 15th crash that took the life of teammate and staffer. Then, again, Ari updated this. Now official, Georgia defensive tackle Jalen Carter, who was scheduled to talk at 10:30 Eastern Time, a.m., did not speak today, and he won't the rest of the week. NFL says he's still in the medical testing area. I mean, to me, Carter is my number 1 overall prospect. He's 6'3", 300 pounds, and he moves unbelievably athletic for a man that size. He is the number 1 DT, which right now, to me, if you were to ask Mitch, besides quarterback, what's the Raiders' biggest team need? It's defensive tackle. And I'll tell you whether or not I want the Raiders to take him at 7 if he slides, but we did get some new info, and Jalen Carter released this statement. This morning, I received a telephone call from the Athens, Georgia Police Department informing me that 2 misdemeanor warrants have been issued against me for reckless driving and racing. Numerous media reports also have circulated this morning containing inaccurate information concerning the tragic events of January 15, 2023. It is my intention to return to Athens to answer the misdemeanor charges against me and to make certain that the complete and accurate truth is presented. There is no question in my mind that when all the facts are known, that I will be fully exonerated of any criminal wrongdoing. So with that being said, these are some of the toughest decisions that coaches, general managers have to make. Let's say you're in a world right now. The draft is today. You're in the war room right here. Dave Ziegler right here. Josh McDaniels. They look at you. Do we take Jalen Carter? He's on the board here at number 7. Type D for draft, or I want you to type P for pass. From the information that I know right now, yes, I am going to still take Jalen Carter at number 7. If new information arises, my answer is allowed to change. But from what I know right now, if you can get the number 1 player on your big board, I get the fact that the Raiders have needs at QB. But Carter, to me, is a player that this team simply can't pass on. You want to be able to take down Kansas City. You want to be able to legitimately compete against other teams in the AFC led by Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. No doubt, you need a quarterback. But Jalen Carter being able to get after the QB is also very important. So remember, y'all, if you made it this far in the video, shout out to all the real ones. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned, because if any new information from the Combine, new players that they meet, I'm going to do my best to update you guys on social media. So please give me a follow on Twitter. I'm at MitchellRenz365.